All right. Hello and welcome to the Cinebums podcast. It is the annual time of year and we've been doing this for many years now, where John and I talk about our favorite movies of the year, our top 10 movies of 2024. Yeah, John, I know you've been watching a lot of movies lately, from the past year. You're
Yeah,
like a
as
classic
always,
crammer over there.
yeah, every year, always spending December and January cramming to get everything. But in my defense, that's also when, half of the movies come
Become
out.
available.
Is yeah,
Yeah.
like thanks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Um, but yeah, I feel good about my list.
I feel like at the end of the year, it was like, you're kind of used to maybe the quality being better at the end of the year. That's like one of the things
Yeah.
I'll say. Uh, I'm used to like December ending up to be half my list, and I don't think that was necessarily the case. Um, but yeah, I got to 50 movies by this episode. Um, And I've looked at past lists. There's like most of the time I range between 50 to 60 movies a year. The good years are usually close to 60. And then there was like one year, I think it was 2020, I looked at where I watched like 30 movies total. And that's a very sad list to look at.
Yeah, the COVID year. Yeah.
I think that's why, yeah, there just weren't movies out, you know?
It's like the NBA lockout year. There's like only a certain amount of games they play. There's only a certain amount of movies that
Yeah,
come out because of the
I kind of
lockout.
forgot. Yeah, I kind of forgot how like the TV schedule was light for the lockout, but
It's just
uh
like there's just the season starts later, so there's less games they play.
yeah, oh yeah, that's
So
why.
that's
That's why.
just yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's in terms of like COVID feels like that. Like that was our
Everything
movie
shrunk.
season
Yeah.
lockout. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, did you get to 50 movies as well? Are you like around where I'm at, or are you like a little ahead of me?
You know what? I got to 49.
Oh man.
49. I was gonna get I even thought about it last night. I was like, oh, before we do this episode, I'll get my 50th in. And then I was looking at everything that I hadn't seen yet,
And it was not no
and
interest.
nothing felt like this is 50th worthy.
Oh
I don't know.
yeah. It has to be
And
like, it's
yeah,
like SNL 50th anniversary. You have like Steve Martin on there. You don't have like I don't know. Someone
yeah,
not as good as Steve Martin.
yeah. Someone like yeah, Elon Musk or I don't know.
That
Yeah.
would be an awful.
But yeah, I felt like 49 was still good enough to make a top 10 list and that I didn't envision anything I haven't seen yet sneaking into my top 10. I guess there's a
That's what I
chance,
feel
but
too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel too. Is like I got to I cared mainly about the top 10. There's like probably some more mid-tier bad ones I could watch, but I'm gonna like hold off, you know. Uh yeah, I'm good with the top 10. I'm mostly satisfied with it. There's like a couple movies I didn't get to, such as like I think Flow is one of the movies I didn't get to that is apparently
Same.
really good. And then a couple random ones like that. But the main ones like um for instance, I spent Saturday I saw The Brutalist, and that took up my entire day. With the
Yeah.
intermission and everything. And so that was a very effortful, like, let's try to
Yeah.
squeeze in everything that's very well regarded, you know.
Yeah, I felt like I couldn't do my list without seeing the Brutalist. And so yeah, I spent my Sunday seeing the Brutalist and it's I'll this is a spoiler, but it's not on my top 10 list. And I was not really into it and I honestly, by the time the intermission hit, I was like, well, I'm gonna stay for this whole thing, but I was thinking about all these other things I could have done with my Sunday instead of sat in a theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, since you spoiled it, I wasn't going to, but it's not in my top 10 either.
You don't have to,
Although,
hey, you didn't have to spoil your own.
although, let's just say our list right now
All right,
since
you know
John
what? Fuck
ruined.
it.
No more
Let's
anticipation.
do
But
let's do all 50 right now. Just go through.
all right, Ricky Stenicki. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I saw it. Well, I mean, might as well talk about it since we're not going to talk about it
Yeah,
anyway. We
true.
weren't going
Yeah.
to anyways. The movie started for me, and I was thinking like in the first half, I was like, oh, this could be like my number one, and then
Yeah.
and then as the movie went on, it fell out of the top 10. Um, I like liked it, but I didn't. There were like these two girls sitting next to me who like were really like venting about how they didn't like it during the intermission. Uh, kind of like it sounds like you
Wow.
a little bit, and they're like, I don't know, it was really weird because I was like, why are they staying? Like they seem so displeased, and they seem so like I don't know, they seem so like pissed that they were. They had to be like they had to be there. Like someone was like forcing them to be there. I'm like, you didn't have to like come to this. Like you knew how long it was going to be, and like it's supposed to be like it's a movie called The Brutalist. It's probably gonna be a pretentious epic, and that's what it's
Mhm.
known for. But yeah, it didn't fall as high for me as I thought. Uh and also I watched like an interview with the director, and I'm not sure if I like that guy very
Oh,
much either.
I'm so glad you said that because I was going to bring it up too. I've even before seeing the movie, I had watched some like interviews with him and thought, man, this guy is such a blowhard.
Yeah,
Like
I watched like the directors on directors with Sean Baker.
that's what I watched too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I did not like the guy at all. I was like, I don't like this guy. And Sean Baker it just seems like a way more my type of guy.
He was like the
Uh,
opposite. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like
just like super
chill and
cool,
normal and
super
yeah.
cool. Kind of maybe doesn't take himself too seriously. A
Yeah.
little goofy. Definitely could take himself very seriously, because he of the types of movies he makes. But yeah, yeah, the Brady Corbett takes himself very seriously, and I don't like
Yes.
hate his movies. I even think I kind of like The Brutalist, and I kind of like Vox Lux, but I don't think I really like him. He seems like a little swept up in the narcissism and selfishness of being a director, and uh, maybe thinks he's a little more important of a director than he is.
Yeah, that's what I felt about the whole movie really was that it seemed like he was making this epic American epic just to like make an epic, not because
Yeah,
there was like a
yeah.
real like
Well, and it's not based
great
off of
story to
anything
tell.
either, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a little bit of might be it's slightly kind of a jerk off because he just came up with it in his own head, and he's sort of inventing this suffering, and he's like a child of Hollywood. So he couldn't
Mm.
have more different of an upbringing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And have you ever seen the Letterboxd uh, like four favorites
With
videos
him.
that they
Uh,
do?
oh, of
They
course,
did,
yeah.
yeah, they did. So they did one with at the Brutalist premiere, and they're talking to like the cast and everybody's being so like friendly and nice, and they're saying, they'll say like some more artsy films, but then they'll also say like Home Alone and Jurassic Park and stuff. They'll throw that stuff in there too, and then
Right.
they get to him, and it's
It's
like
all like
Andrei Rublev and some other like movies I've never even like a couple that I haven't even heard of before that are
right,
all just
right.
like, oh, this guy's just trying to sound so like this is
Yeah, yeah.
Letterboxd interviewing
Right,
you,
right.
not
He reminds me,
Encyclopedia
that kind of reminds
Britannica.
me of people I know who do that. They're like,
Mm,
let's list the most obscure, my taste is the most obscure crap that no one's ever heard of. Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like in those videos, there's always like the pressure from uh, the actor or whoever to be like, okay, I'm gonna try to list some really sophisticated stuff. But there
yeah,
always is like one thing in there, which is like, it's like Back to the Future or Clueless or something like that,
yeah,
where they're like, okay, I'm gonna throw in something like, or the Goonies, or they're like, I'm gonna throw something fun in, uh, and then they'll be like, oh, but also this Cassavetes movie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So, but yeah, he totally seems like that type.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I like in that video, I think that video is worth watching. But there's I don't know his name, but the actor who played Adrian Brody's like only friend, uh, the black guy
Oh yeah.
and his son, he was in there too, and he had like the best lit. He said like Ghost Dog because he's in it,
Oh hell
and
yeah. It's
and then
awesome.
I'm pretty sure he also said like Home Alone, and then some other like random like kids movie that's
Right.
it was just like endearing. Like that's like I
Right.
want to hear that these people who make these types of movies, they also are, they just enjoy, I don't know, something lighthearted and enjoyable.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah. Um So yeah, I'm glad you felt the same way about him because I watched some interviews
Yeah.
and especially that one with Sean Baker. It's just like Sean Baker seem like he'd say something that sounded very like relatable and interesting and but kind of
Yeah.
like laid back and then he'd be like, "Well, yes, and then when you're directing and you want to
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
most out of
Yeah.
your actors and you're doing and
Yeah.
it's just like, "Oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
enough." Yeah.
I yeah, I feel like, and I feel like he's kind of just like, well, I'm in this interview, so I'm gonna let him like indulge. I'm just gonna like listen and be nice and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen interviews like that where like between say like Paul Thomas Anderson and Quentin Tarantino, where Quentin Tarantino just talks over Paul Thomas Anderson the whole time, and then like, and in my opinion, I view like Paul here and like, well, you can't see my hand with this thing, but Paul here and Quentin here, right? And I probably view Sean Baker and Brady Corbett the same way, but like specifically with Tarantino and Paul Thomas Anderson, not everyone views it that way. So they're like, yeah, of course Tarantino's talking much more, but I think to a lot of people that's not they also I don't know, might listening to Paul Thomas Anderson speak more than Tarantino because Tarantino, you know what you're gonna get a lot of the times in a way.
Yeah.
Even though he's enjoyable, he's like a fun caricature of a director.
Yeah, he's both funny and yeah, entertaining to listen to and like
Yeah.
insufferable at the same time.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly. You're also kind of like, what the fuck? Who is this fucking guy? And like,
yeah, yeah.
there's this
It-
one video, I'll send it to you, but it's like Jake and I shared it with each other, and it's like these like dudes, these like couple of black guys on a radio show or a podcast, they're like going over this time where like Tarantino's just like talking black, and
oh
it's just
God.
there, and it's hilarious. Like, uh, yeah, I forget what he said. He says something like, I wanna I wanna please my fans, but I also want to please the critics who are my fans. It's so funny.
There was that interview that he did on
Oh yeah,
106
them
and
years ago.
Park. He
He
was
was on
trying to
full.
be black.
I want to please my fans, and I want to please the critics that are my fans.
You know what? He tried to be black, but he sounded like Elvis.
But yeah, anyways, that's our thoughts on the Brutalist.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I guess we should just dive into our top tens and save all other honorable mentions for later. Uh, John, if you wanna kick us off, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll kick us off. With my number 10 is A Real Pain. The
Hell yeah.
hell yeah. The Jesse Eisenberg vehicle, I guess you would say. Yeah,
Sure,
Jesse
sure.
Eisenberg, Kieran Culkin. I think um, was this Jesse Eisenberg's first movie that he's written and directed?
I think
I think
so.
so.
Like feature at least, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I thought it was really great. It was a story of these two vastly different cousins who go on this trip to sort of connect with their roots, and they both
Mm.
have yeah, there's like a weird, dynamic of them both sort of wanting what the other has in a way, but not sure how to show it,
Yeah,
um, and then with Kieran Culkin, or he seems like he's always, go with the flow and
Hmm.
easygoing guy, that there's really some more underneath the surface. And yeah, I just thought it was a good buddy comedy drama with these two.
Right, with like a dark touch to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. It was touching and also funny. And yeah, I'm definitely a Jesse Eisenberg fan. I think he's done
Yeah.
some. I mean, not just obviously Social Network is something we've talked about a ton, but The Art of Self-Defense,
Right.
I
I
think, is
still
good
haven't
too.
gone to that, but I remember you recommending it.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that too. I think he's and I've listened to a bunch of interviews with him recently because he kind of went through the podcast circuit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just think he's kind of an interesting guy, how nervous and panicked he really always is. Maybe
Yeah, yeah,
not as
yeah.
much as when he was younger, it sounds like, but yeah, then he really does these has these like amazing roles um that he pulls off. It's like his comfort zone is yeah, playing a character to get out of that anxiety that he was talking about in a lot of interviews. But yeah, A Real Pain is my number 10.
Yeah, to fact check real quick, he's directed one more
Oh,
movie called When You Finish Saving the World, and I've never seen it.
interesting.
It's
Huh.
got Julianne Moore in it.
Wow, when you finish saving the world.
It was a 2022 movie. So,
Oh, okay.
but I think like he
Yeah,
has further than that, he has like a history of like playwriting and doing all this stuff. So like he's had the
makes
training
sense.
up to now, but yeah, I think now he's gonna keep trying to make more movies, which is cool. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll talk about the movie more because later it's also on my list.
Oh,
Don't you love it?
spoiler.
My favorite thing, you know.
Yeah.
For the interviews thing, real quick, like it is funny when I don't know when I watch the interviews with Jesse Eisenberg, I'm like, man, this guy has so much fucking anxiety and he's
Yeah.
so wired. Like this guy, I'm like, how does he even like get through the day or act or function like that? But it's always comforting to see other people who are clearly openly uh neurotic and struggling with themselves in front of you like he is. And I think and he's a great person to have in Hollywood, very like a relatable person to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not, yeah, the pretentious Brady Corbett type, but
Yeah, yeah, on the other end of the spectrum, yeah.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, it's cool how open he is about all of that anxiety and that you would think someone that anxious and neurotic, like you said, would how would he ever have like a career that's so
Yeah,
much in the public eye like this?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. It seems like it would paralyze him when I'm watching him
yeah,
talk. I'm like, how the hell is he like not on burnout by like 2 o'clock p.m., And he's
yeah.
on WTF and like Mark Maron said something really funny to him. He was like, you are wired, right? And he is. He's so wired. And what's funny is
Yeah,
Mark Maron's pretty wired, but like Jesse Eisenberg's even like way more wired in a way.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna do my number 10. That's the order.
Wow.
We don't do John's number 10, then we do my number three, then John's number. We do about this like rational human beings. So for my number 10, I feel like I'm about to say something like controversial, like I'm about to say like I voted for Trump or some shit.
Oh
Uh,
shit.
but that's not what happened here. While The Brutalist didn't make my top 10, and I'm actually looking at my list now, and it's like just sitting outside the top 10, kind of scarily, because I think I revealed how I feel like talking through my viewing of The Brutalist with you, I maybe revealed more of my true feelings of the film. So like now it should be lower. But yeah, so this is a film that most people did not like, I would say, and it was so this might be a little controversial, but and actually I was sort of like thinking, I hope that one of these movies that I see like these past few weeks, I hope one of these comes through and goes on the top 10 so I can like push this one out of the top 10. But
Oh,
it didn't happen, so we're sticking with it, and I'm owning up to it. So yeah, my number 10 is Francis Coppola's Megalopolis. Uh,
wow. Yeah.
is widely regarded as a bomb and a failure and lots of other things. And you know, I think a lot of people might think I'm like trying to be a contrarian by having this in my top 10, but I genuinely, on my first viewing in the theater, like, uh, I had a fun time watching this movie, and I felt like I got a lot out of watching this movie. That being said, everyone who I saw the movie with walked out was on a completely different wavelength from me and were confused, and I was walking out with my kind of yerba mate buzz, very inspired and very creative and hyped up. And I just and yeah, no, the people who I saw the movie with, they all didn't like it, and I was just like, huh? I liked it a lot, and like,
We
and it
see the
was,
same movie?
yeah, and like, um, and so here's like while I'll say I like it, despite its wackiness and incoherence and weirdness, I think Megalopolis is a very unique movie with a lot to say and has a lot of things I like life philosophy, mantra things going on, and trippy visuals, and kind of speaks to a lot of what I look for in like works of art and movies and creativity. And I didn't find it like I didn't think that it didn't like it for a lot of people it seemed like it didn't make sense to them, but I just didn't really find that at all. And it might be just because I used to watch a lot of weird shit back in the day that this didn't really like. I don't know. I felt like I understood what it's going for in a lot of ways, and I liked. And while a lot of people in the theater were laughing at the movie, I kind of found that I kind of took it as like the movie was like sort of semi-aware of like how wacky it's being because a lot of the actors are sort of playing around in it clearly, and like Aubrey Plaza, how ridiculous she is in it, and Shia LaBeouf, especially like when he
Yeah, yeah.
starts to riot and shit like that. Like I was like, holy shit, this is fucking hilarious. But I did find there's a lot of cringe shit in this. I won't say like I can't stand the scene where Giancarlo Esposito and his and Natalie Emmanuel, who plays his daughter, when like they're quoting Marcus Aurelius. I find that to be a very, very cringeworthy scene, and it pulls up all over my feed because my algorithm knows I'm into, I think, both Megalopolis and like Marcus Aurelius, so that will pop up all the time, and I don't really like that. But I guess unlike Brady Corbett, I'm also like a Francis Coppola stan in a way. And like when I watch videos of Coppola talking, I'm very like into it, and like I'm all for it. Even though I think he's also a monster and a huge narcissist, I'm kind of like rooting for that within him. And I like a lot of his movies that others don't really talk about, like say the ones post Apocalypse Now. I'm kind of into almost a lot of them. I think he makes certain movies like Rumblefish. I think is like a movie unlike anything, and One from the Heart is a movie I feel like unlike anything, and Megalopolis I think is a kind of unlike anything. Also, like depending on which side of the spectrum you view it, you could either be like, yeah, this is unlike anything, but it's a tremendous piece of shit, or you can be like me and like, yeah, it's unlike anything. I liked it and got something out of it. So, yeah, and I don't know, and Coppola's like this weird like kind of like king of like cinema in a way where like I saw him at the Cannes Film Festival during the press conference, and he's got his whole like his crazy cast around him, and they're talking about the movie, and then like what his son is his producer, and always got family around him working, and like he's always taking care of his family by doing things like selling his wine company and monetizing it to other things. And he during the canned interview, he's got like one of his granddaughters behind him, and she's kind of like looking at him as if everything he says is just pure gold. Like it's the level of respect this guy like it's almost like not real in a way. Um, so like I bought the ticket of whatever Francis Coppola is like selling as him and all the craziness. Like I'm always buying it, so I think that also makes me biased towards where I was going to like Megalopolis. Because I also think I felt like I knew kind of it was gonna be really just different and transformative and odd and a lot of people I think thought that they like the budget was big, that they thought, oh, it's gonna be like not art house, when it was very art house and weird, and did not give a fuck if audiences liked it at all. And Yeah, and then last point, there's a lot of ideas in it. I like the idea of like thinking differently about the future, like that Adam Driver quote. We have to think differently about the future. Like I like and like when we leap into the unknown, we know that we are free. Like there's a lot of great rich quotes in it that are very like memorable. Uh, so yeah, that's my Megalopolis take. That's why it's number 10.
Wow, yeah, that's
Not too embarrassed.
not too embarrassed.
I left it.
Yeah, it was definitely with the people that you saw it with. I was not very into Megalopolis. I think I get overall like what he's going for, and I do like the sentiment of not really caring what the audience thinks. I guess to me it felt like like Neil Breen. He's like just any one of these sort of these directors that make these shitty like B movies that just every few years they still make all these movies and people like know about them, but they're just terrible. But I felt like it was like giving one of those guys this insane cast to make a movie about like the fall of an empire or something or
Yeah,
uh
yeah.
and yeah, so I don't know. I felt like the dialogue was really weird and cringe and I did I did think Adam Driver and Aubrey Plaza were both really funny, and I enjoyed their like performances because I mean, Adam Driver especially, that just goes all out
Yeah, yeah,
for
it does.
whatever role it is, and yeah, so especially
Adam
here.
Driver
So
can't not turn in a bad
yeah,
performance. Like yeah.
yeah. So I guess I respect the big swing, um, but
Right. Right. The
I was really
mistrust.
yes, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
I really was not. I was not picking up what Coppola was putting down,
Yeah,
where
I almost
you were.
questioned on rewatch how I would actually feel and whether it was a prisoner of the moment sort of thing. But the night of and the day after, I was like coming off this high, genuine high of seeing
Hmm.
Megalopolis, like genuinely.
And I do get what you're saying about like seeing something weird. I think I have a couple weird things on my list that aren't super, I don't know, mainstream in a way. So I definitely am. I was like interested because I heard it was weird and stuff, but I felt like it was awkward.
Yeah, weird, but it's universally hated also.
Yes. Like Nathan Fielder weird. I'm all for all of that weird.
Right,
Give me
right.
that weird all day. But yeah, this I
Maybe
felt like it was a
that's the
different kind of
next
weird.
collab is Coppola and Fielder.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I would for sure
Not
be down for
super out
that.
of left field considering what Fielder did last time, but I almost feel like they would give each other like, oh my God, just they both seem so insane in their own way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I respect you for putting Megalopolis on your list.
Thanks, man. I think I needed to hear that.
You are supported. This is a
That
safe
struggle with
space.
this all by myself. All right, but yeah, that's my number 10.
Cool. All right. Um,
It gets worse from there, I'll tell you.
yeah, it's all downhill.
The list just keeps getting crazy. All right.
All right, well, yeah, speaking of weird, my number nine is a movie called Hundreds of Beavers.
I've heard of this. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, and technically on on Letterboxd it says it's a 2022 movie. I think that's when it originally had like a minor release, but it had a wide release in 2024. So that's what and I've seen it on other 2024 lists. So you know I'm gonna take a stand and keep it on my 2024 list.
Taking a stand.
Taking a stand. Because I also want to be brave like you just were. Um,
This is
but
your
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, Hundreds of Beavers. I gotta say this guy's name who did it. I've seen some interviews with him now. Mike Cheslick, who I believe is from Wisconsin. So this is
Oh,
a
he's
mid
an American movie type guy.
this is gonna be kind of a shout out to the Midwest type thing. So this movie is like um a slapstick silent movie, all filmed in Wisconsin. And yeah, it's I watched a video of him explaining, how they did different shots and showed like sort of behind the scenes. And this is like such a small budget, small crew, small movie that was DIY and they made it look this good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's all black and white. It's very cartoony, and it's just basically about this Applejack salesman in like the 1800s who um, he basically gets into this fight with hundreds of beavers the beavers are all just people in beaver costumes. But in this world, they're actual beavers. And yeah, it's silent, whereas there's no dialogue. There's cards that show what people will say, but there are like animal sounds and there's sounds within it, so it's not just like a score going through, but playing it throughout it. But yeah, it's really funny, kind of like yeah, like a modern day Buster Keaton movie. And yeah, with just really really cool practical effects. Yeah, I was really into it, and I think this guy has another movie previously that came out that's kind of similar called like the Lake Michigan Monster or
Oh,
something like that.
he works
Um,
around that the
yeah.
same
So
area.
also a Midwestern type thing, but it's like I think he's like a sailor back in, way back in the day on like a steam engine, and it looks kind of like The Lighthouse. Um, it gives
All right.
that sort of vibe. I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my list after seeing Hundreds of Beavers. So yeah.
Yeah, I was told about Hundreds of Beavers by somebody and how it was like sweeping festivals and Sundance and
Hmm.
stuff like
Well,
that. So yeah, when I saw you watch it and then it was on your list, I was like, okay, I really should see that since it was also previously recommended to me. But yeah, that's all I know about it.
yeah,
Where should I watch Hundreds of Beavers?
it's on
Hulu?
Tubi.
Okay, I figured it was that early.
Yeah, so
Sweet.
free. Yeah.
Now we're gonna go to my number nine, which is the film. I believe it's a Netflix film. So we're going from Tubi to Netflix. Because I pay for Netflix with my own money, like
Whoa.
yeah,
Wow.
like an adult.
Very mature of you. Yeah. You've changed, man. So wise now.
If you told me 5 years ago that I'd be paid for Netflix, 5 years later, I would have told you to get out of town. But here I am with my
Look how
very
far you've
own,
come.
yeah, with my
Yeah.
very own Netflix subscription. Uh,
Wow.
that's why I was able to watch my number nine, His Three Daughters,
Hmm.
directed by Azazel Jacobs. I'm sure is how you say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
um, yeah, I think a lot of people, this film swept the Letterboxd world, and suddenly everyone was logging it, and maybe even 5 star in it or 4.5 in it. And I was like, I gotta get that to that week after week after week. And then I would just, I would just watch Sideways again and I would drink wine again. And I'd be like, fuck, I didn't get to his three daughters, and then I'd buy another bottle of wine and I'd watch Sideways again. Um, and then one week I bought a bottle of wine and instead of Sideways, I watched his three daughters.
Wow.
And what a story.
I'm moved. Yeah.
um, yeah, so this movie stars Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen as the three daughters of their dad, who's dying in the family home that they used to share, and now only Natasha Lyonne kind of like lives there. And they're all like all the daughters are very distinctly different, which is I think what creates for a lot of the drama in the movie, along with like the thing that is overlying everything, the dying parent that they're dealing with that. But like all of there's like one is high strung, one is kind of more one is kind of more real but immature and also a stoner. And I don't even know like how to describe Elizabeth Olsen's character. She's kind of like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you
She's
could help
kind
me
of
out.
like a responsible. I felt like she was like a responsible, kind of put
Yeah, yeah.
together,
Yeah. Maybe like
presentable
she was like doing
one. Yeah.
yoga and stretching and she wasn't trying to start things
Yeah. She seemed
really.
like
Like
the most reasonable or like
yeah,
professional in a
right.
way.
Maybe
Yeah.
like the one you'd look up to the most when Carrie Coon's kind of like very upset all the time and causing a lot of the drama and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I thought the dynamic between these three actresses was great, and I thought the end especially was pretty moving, and got very intense and deep. And I think his three daughters met the expectations for me. And I think if I wanted to rewatch it again, I could get more out of it. And it's kind of just one of those well written, contained films that you like, where you get used to the space and you get to be really intimate with the people in it. So yeah, that his three daughters. I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I forgot about that until you said it because I wanted to make sure it was on my list. But yeah, it's
That one's not even on my list at
that's
all.
now I'm gonna change. That's my number nine now. No, I'm it is on my full list, but it's not in my top 10. But I did like it a lot, and
I did like it a lot. It even made it up to number 48
yeah,
on the
48
list.
out of 49. Yeah. It just beat Ricky Stenicki. Uh yeah, and I love Natasha Lyonne. I'll see anything that she's in pretty much. So
Yeah.
shout out to her. And I don't know if I think we probably talked about this, but have you watched Poker Face on Peacock?
No,
Uh,
that's a show.
So yeah, it was a new show that Ryan Johnson and Natasha Lyonne created for Peacock. And there's just so far there's been one season. I think the second season's coming out sometime in the next year. But it's just like Columbo, but with Natasha Lyonne. And it's just like a really entertaining and also like chill uh mystery series. And Natasha Lyonne she just plays like the Peter Falk Columbo type of character. It's not like a complete like rip off or anything. There's like a long storyline throughout it, but each episode is sort of a different crime in a way. But yeah, she's just really like entertaining character.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
no,
yeah, yeah, it's
looks good. I'll
yeah.
check it out. Yeah. I was looking for it while you were explaining it.
I thought you were just ignoring me.
Yeah, no, I'm just like texting
Yeah,
other people.
no, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
Adrian
um,
Brody of the Brutalist
th-
is in Poker Face.
is he really? Oh yes, okay, yeah, yeah. He's in the first episode. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, shout out to Poker Face. Um, I'd like to see more of that show. So if more people can watch, then that would certainly help it to be
It'll
continued to be made.
certainly help our team there.
Yes.
Yeah, Team Poker Face.
Yeah.
Um, Elizabeth Olsen also like picks a lot of good projects. I've noticed
She's
ever since she
great.
got off the
Yeah.
Marvel train, she really picks great
Mhm.
projects, and she's always fantastic. So yeah, also shout out to Elizabeth Olsen.
Shout out.
All right, but yeah, that's his three daughters. Let's move on.
All right, moving on. Okay, so my number eight. I think this is also this is one out of left field. Um, that maybe probably a lot of people haven't seen, but it's called Rap World.
Yeah, I
And
haven't seen that either, but I want to since you put it on your list.
yeah, and this is I've talked many a time about Conor O'Malley on here, and I think he's one of one right now. There's really no one who does these absurd, weird comedy comedy movies and short films, I guess, that he makes.
Hmm.
They all pretty much go on YouTube. And Rap World, I think, had
Is
a
it YouTube
minor,
also?
yeah, yeah. I think it had a minor like theatrical release or was available like to purchase on VOD. Um, but then a couple of months ago or whatever, sometime this fall, he made it free on YouTube. Um, and yeah, so Rap World is basically it's this like self-made documentary of these uh loser guys in 2009 and their rap group that they create. And it's really just it's like perfectly encapsulates this type of guy that we would have went to high school with or something in 2009 or would have been like like your friend's weird older brother or something who has like a rap group. They're all like these white kids from the suburbs, but they have no
Yeah.
life and no real like good family at home and there's just such idiots, but it's such a specific type of person that Conor O'Malley can always sort of like tap into, and also like absurd person that really doesn't exist, but because they're I don't know, Conor O'Malley takes him
They're
to a different level.
fictionalized. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's Conor O'Malley, Jack Bensinger, Eric Rahill. Uh those are sort of like the main guys, but there's also like Sarah Sherman from SNL, Dan Licata, he's a great comedian too. Um, but yeah, it's definitely is very much like another like DIY homemade
Hmm.
video set in 2009. It has a very 2009 feel to it. I think they play like Guitar Hero 2 maybe or something.
Yeah.
There's like video games from this era that it all just like yeah
It brings it
blends it
back.
so well. Yeah. Yeah, I would recommend Rap World and to check out his other things too. I think some of his short films are even better than Rap World was. Um like The Two Coreys, I think is like a masterpiece. I think you'd enjoy it, Luke.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I really like things where I think I'll get a kick out of it because I find it really funny when the suburbs are showed how much they're influenced by hip hop, especially like our generation, because I feel like hip hop got like dirtier and more like southern and like maybe like gangster and like Lil Wayne, and so like less relatable even than maybe like 90s hip hop was, but yet the kids are still listening to it and are really influenced by it, and I love anything where it's like I find that contrast, um since I also have that in me, like the contrast of the suburbs and like hip hop really funny, especially when
Yeah.
like suburban people are very like religiously into hip hop when there's not like you could say like externally there's nothing they should relate to it really at all, but
Yeah,
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 how far the reach is of it. Yeah, so I think I'd be really into this.
yeah. It's definitely up your alley. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you bringing up this Connor O'Malley guy maybe years ago, and I still haven't gotten to any of his stuff. So there's that.
Yeah, yeah. I just honestly just go on a YouTube binge one day.
All right, if it's
Don't have anything
YouTube, that's
going
so
on.
much easier
Oh
too.
yeah,
Even though, like it's no matter what you're watching it on, it's still like a click of a button. So it's not like YouTube
yeah,
is that much easier. But there's some in freeing, about YouTube. It's like you know,
totally.
the Wild West of watching stuff. You can just start whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. No, I pretty almost all of his stuff is just on YouTube, so really easy
Where
to
does
get
he come
into.
from? Is he just an independent creator, or did he like start somewhere else?
So well, he's from Chicago,
Nice.
but like actually Chicago. I think he
Yeah.
uh I don't know, probably like a blue collar-ish family, but he then went to New because I used to watch the Chris Gethard show all the time. I don't know if you know about that, but it was like a public access show that they also put on YouTube and at some point got on TV too. But it was like Chris Gethard and like would have a bunch of random like New York alternative comedians come on and do stuff, and he would be on that. And then I know he wrote for Seth Meyers on his show,
Okay.
and he's married to Adie Bryant from SNL
Oh, wow. Okay.
too.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, yeah. So he's kind of this weird like underground type comedian, but he's definitely been in like the more mainstream
Sounds like a little more
things too.
like a maybe more underground Andy Sandberg type or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
That's
not
not a bad
exactly, but
comparison. That's not bad. Yeah, he's like a less um less a non-mainstream Andy Samberg.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. Um, but yeah,
All right.
then
I
I think
really
he's
need to
always
check out this guy. Yeah.
definitely, yeah, he's always done his own thing at the same time too. Because I think I was late to the game and getting into him, but yeah, now I think he's starting to get bigger and bigger by really just sort of doing all of this on his own
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
with
Well,
a small team
when you like
of his like
YouTube,
friends.
YouTube is just like
Yeah,
considered it can be a hub for show business now. So I think it's a
yeah,
perfect time for him.
yeah, for
As
sure.
I analyze it, not knowing this guy at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really an up and coming star.
he should really keep it up. Yeah, it's good for him for his clout.
If he needs any advice from me, that's what I would tell him.
Yeah. Hopefully he's listening and he can
I know
this
you're out there.
podcast will
Yeah.
promote him to keep going. All right. All right. Rap World is your number 8. Uh my number 8 is going back to John's number 10, A Real Pain.
All
Um
right.
yeah, this could have probably even been higher on my list. Because this is kind of like my type of movie in a way. I like movies where, people are like, I don't know, kind of going on these very humble getaways, or not even just a getaway, but where like two people are kind of just like mostly just simple. It's just like simple. It's very simple. People are just talking, and these two hold a relationship, and there's like a slight rift, and it's both funny and it's both heavy, and there's like mental health stuff involved, and like I'm sure I'll watch this again because of that, and like I already know I will. Kind of like how I know, like say with the holdovers, which I was looking back at, like I think it was last year, right? Last year's top 10.
Yeah.
Holdovers was, I think, my no, it wasn't my number one, it was my number two. Blackberry was my number one, but holdovers was my number two because I was like, I know I'm gonna watch this again, like
Oh
repeatedly,
yeah.
because of like the relatability factor, and just like how it's a story really very, it's rooted in reality. And so I for that reason, I know I'm definitely going to watch it again. And then when I saw that there was a movie with both of these guys in it, I was very excited because I like both these guys, and um, it's also so nice to see Kieran Culkin in a like non-succession role because it just saw, you got to see him flex a different muscle, and I thought he was very perfect as this guy, and he also killed in my movie theater. Like he was just making people laugh the whole time,
Hmm.
and the timing and it with like what the way he interacts with like the other people and the way he just says things out of nowhere that like you would not expect is like the timing's always perfect. Yeah, and I love a real
Yeah,
pain. Yeah.
nice. Yeah. So my number seven is a complete unknown. The
You mean
Timothy
it's like a Rolling
Chalamet,
Stone?
like a Rolling Stone. Yeah, it's the Bob Dylan
Oh,
biopic.
the times they are changing.
They are changing. Yeah, I can't think of another
I know.
of another Bob Dylan reference.
Beatles guys, if you guys didn't know,
Yeah.
this kind of is a little out of left field to have a Dylan movie on the list.
Yeah. Now, as soon as they make a Beatles movie, that's going to be number one
That's
on our
common.
list.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
common. I feel like it's like a cultural thing to be anti every music biopic that comes out. Like we're always skeptical. Like I remember when the trailer of this movie uh dropped, and everyone was like, I think, making fun of Chalamet's like portrayal, like
Yeah.
immediately. Because
Yeah.
I think in trailers and especially in small doses, it does seem kind of like maybe a little cringe, like it's Chalamet trying to do Bob Dylan. But then, when it came out, you're like, oh wow, this is fantastic, like all the
Yeah.
way through. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not the biggest yeah, music biopic person even. And
yeah.
like you said, I
We
mean
like
it's
because
I
we like the docs, so we like the real.
a doc is always better. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um
biopics are kind of like a mimicky version of the real thing.
yeah. And that's why I was not that interested even when I first heard that they were making this and that Timothy Chalamet was chosen to play Bob Dylan. I was like, "Oh my God." Like of course, like this is going to be so like hammy and Hollywoody and
Yeah, well,
um
especially James Mangold is the director. I'm not
yeah.
really super into James Mangold, even though like
But he did Walk
Walk,
the Line,
Walk
right?
the Line is pretty decent. Yeah, Walk the Line's good. Ford versus Ferrari is good. Logan's pretty good. Now that I'm like going through it all, I guess I James Mangold is
I
kind
do
of
like yeah, well, I do actually like his movies. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, he did the newest Indiana Jones too. Interesting.
Never saw that.
Me
Night and
neither.
Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, I actually think is like a great time. It's really silly. Uh, so
He's
yeah,
done some like I
it's good
feel
to know
like
that the Dylan movie was in good hands.
he seems like he's probably like an easy guy to work with for like the studios. The fact that he's done
Yeah.
um these like bigger IPs and stuff like that.
Right.
I
Mhm.
feel like yeah, he's not gonna like ruffle any feathers. That's what
Yeah.
I'm looking for. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like I said, I was way not into it when I heard and when I saw the trailer too, like you said. And I honestly took Carly was like, "Oh, do you want to see that?" Like we saw a trailer for it on TV, and I was like, "I guess I'll probably see it, but I don't know." And she's
Like,
like, "Oh,
hell
I
no, Carly.
hell no, I ain't seen that shit."
That's how
Do
they
my
talk.
yeah, let's do my
And she's
Quentin
like, don't talk
Tarantino.
to me like that, John.
Yeah. I ain't seen that honky shit with yeah,
Some white boy folk bullshit.
no. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I don't know, I'll probably not in the theater, but I'll see it at some point, you know. And then she was saying that she would really wanted to see it, and she's not, you know, I would consider myself a Bob Dylan fan, pretty, you know, uh,
Through it, through.
I'm not like a head where I know every in and out, but I've seen the docs. I've got the albums. Um, I
Yeah.
went to see Bob Dylan. I've seen Bob Dylan twice, once with my
Oh, really?
dad, which is
Nice.
very,
Where?
yeah. Well, first time Wilco was opening up for him, so my friend
Oh,
Jack and I
that's
went.
cool. That's
We
a
went
great
mostly to
show.
see, oh, it was amazing. It
Yeah.
was My Morning Jacket, Wilco, and then Bob Dylan on
Wow.
this tour. And my friend and I, we mainly went for Wilco. As you can see, I have two Wilco posters up on my wall here. Um yeah, but then we weren't this was like freshman year of college, and I knew of Bob Dylan and I knew like the hits and stuff, but I wasn't really into him that much until later in my 20s. And then last year, my dad and I um we saw Bob Dylan in Chicago. I forget what, maybe the Cadillac Theater.
Mm,
But yeah. Um but yeah, since getting, you know, maturing, I've gotten more into Bob Dylan and the character of Bob Dylan because he's very
yeah.
elusive and mysterious and
Yeah. Yeah.
um so I like that, the movie also isn't necessarily true to everything. It's sort of a story of Bob Dylan and
Yeah.
real things that happened, but it's not like I don't know, it's more I can be more forgiving on like making things like more Hollywoodish because Bob always kind of he keeps like I don't know mystique about him and that he is
Mhm.
kind of a character, and I think you can
Yeah.
see that in the movie too that uh he's like yeah, he's a complete unknown. This mysterious guy comes from Minnesota, shows up in New York one day, and then just kind of blows up into this
Yeah.
icon. And yeah, I think he's always been like an inspiring artist, just in the sense that he does what he wants to do, and he doesn't really care about the audience or
Mhm.
critics or anything, and people pigeonholing him into being one thing. He always is just he's knowing himself and doing what he wants to do, and which I would also recommend reading his book, Chronicles, which I also find a very inspiring book because he tells a lot of stories from like this time that's shown in the movie, but also just kind of what he felt he needed to do or who he about finding himself and just being himself and nobody else. And so yeah, I just think he's a really interesting person, and that you could clearly see Timothy Chalamet, like he is a huge Bob Dylan fan and did his homework and like took it really
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was like the biggest thing with the movie because people who are really into Bob Dylan would like there's probably those people that don't like it because it's a little Hollywoody or whatever, but I think he probably won a lot of people over with his performance. Uh, Because yeah, I've and especially if you watch his Nardwuar interview, I don't know if you saw that.
I started it after you like told me about it. Yeah.
Oh, did I? Oh, okay, yeah. But
Yeah.
he's like so into it and like,
Yeah. I mean, the
uh,
whole
yeah,
Chalamet press tour thing is wild, and I feel
yeah,
like I kind of became a bigger fan of him from it because like he's so uh I don't know, the way he's kind of running with the fame and like the way he's embracing it and the fact that
yeah,
he is just undeniably like a pretty cool innocent dude, and how he's so passionate about so many things,
yeah,
and also that he's like our age. I'm just kind of like, like I can't help but be like, yeah, yeah, I'm so happy that for Timothy right now, like doing all this press and like for
yeah.
Dylan and being so enthusiastic about it all the time. I don't know if you saw SNL with him. That was
I did, yeah,
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 like the fucking writers of SNL gave him nothing in that opening monologue, and he's just like going through it, and he's like, he even knows he's like, well, that one's another flop, but then he keeps going because he doesn't
yeah,
care. He's just like, because he's always in a good mood, and yeah, yeah, like, it's such a bad opening monologue, but I thought it was
yeah,
really cool how he like performed the Dylan songs with like, um, what is his name, James Blake,
yeah, yeah,
or who's like a great producer nowadays, and like kind of modernized. They kind of modernized it, and now it's like almost like Timothy Chalamet is like a kind of like he's also like a musical artist now because he has so
Yeah.
much like style and the way he dresses and the pictures they took of him before. It's almost like okay, now he's like an now he's an artist or something like that. Like he's dropping an album. But I mean, he's undeniably great in the all the performance scenes as Dylan. Whenever he's like playing the guitar and
Yeah.
singing, you're like, this is great. Even though that's not like him authentically like singing or anything, he's doing a performance, but it's great, and that's part of what like to me carries the movie and makes it so good is that like every time he's on stage, it's just rocks. And like especially when he's performing the folk stuff at the beginning, I was like, oh wow, this kind of competes with like Llewyn Davis in a way with how like good it is and
Yeah.
memorable and what like one of the reasons why I'll probably go back to it is just for the musical performances.
Yeah, that the musical performances were so like I don't know, way beyond like my expectations for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, like I noticed like immediately when he what's the guy in the hospital's name again?
Woody Guthrie.
Woody Guthrie. Yeah, yeah. Got here to see Woody Guthrie.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. I'm here to see Woody Guthrie. But like when he goes there and he performs for them right away, when that performance like hit, I was like, okay, I know what I'm in for this movie now. Like I know I'm
Yeah,
in good hands. Basically, is what I thought.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely respect him a lot for going all out on it and true like you can see like the passion is I know he's an actor, but I think the passion for like the character of Bob Dylan that he portrayed was
Yeah,
like real, like he was really
yeah.
into it. I think that's probably part of the reason why he went so hard with the promo.
He feels like ownership over the film as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. And
When it's not like Dune, he's like, I designed the special effects myself.
yeah, yeah. And then there's been talk, I guess, about making more of these about like the different eras of Bob Dylan, which I would be up for
Yeah,
too.
clearly we'd be down for it.
Obviously. Like
Yeah,
you just mentioned you watched Rolling Thunder,
right.
like
And
that. I feel
that's
like that
like,
would
I
be
know they didn't even get to the Rolling Thunder tour. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I don't know if that would be like the next step if they were
Stage
to
of
do a
Dylan,
series. It would be going to like the 70s and Rolling Thunder if there's more in
probably.
between there. Um but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
His like costume and the way his look towards the end, like his pre-Highway 61 costume for Dylan is just fantastic. How cool and how cool he looks and how like and so true to how like Dylan really looked. Like
Yeah,
I thought I was
yeah.
just like in awe. I was like, that's so cool. On the
The
sunglasses
the
inside,
sunglasses,
like
yeah.
sunglasses inside thing's great. There's a part in Don't Look Back that I love where he's uh he's like typing and then behind him Joan Baez is like singing one of his songs. I forget what the song is, but she's just like
She's like
singing it so
turn, turn,
yeah,
turn away. Yeah.
turn. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is like the greatest room ever right now. I never want to
Yeah.
leave what's going on here. Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a cool character dynamic that she always like played his stuff and it's makes
yeah.
it interesting for a movie. All right. My number seven is Dee Dee. It's funny transitioning from that. Because now I'm like, what do I think about Dee Dee again? Do I have any opinion at all? Or am I just very into Bob Dylan and the Beatles and music of the 60s? Oh, yeah, I have other opinions, right?
Let's just scrap the rest of the list and just talk about the Beatles.
Let's just scrap that. A Complete Unknown is both our number one, and
Yeah.
Get Back by the Beatles is our number two.
Technically, I watched it again in 2024, so I'm going to include it in this list.
People are like, I'm so done with this podcast.
Yeah.
There was this part where I was at the Magic Castle I told you about the Magic Castle last
Yeah.
episode, so everyone listening should remember.
Go
I
back
don't
to
have
your
to re
notes.
I don't have to re-explain
Yeah.
it. But there's this room in the Magic Castle where there's a magical piano, and so you can request songs that the piano plays. And I requested something, by the
Nice.
Beatles, and like it starts playing, and I like and like it's just there's other people in the room, and I started like singing something to the piano because I'm drunk, and I'm just like something in the way she holds, and everyone's like, all right, I want to listen to the Harry Potter theme by this piano right now.
Uh,
After this weirdo's done with his clear indulgence.
personally enjoy to hear a rendition
No,
of
like
something.
I was like really into it. I was like
And you
singing it
sing it.
really hard. Yeah, I was singing it really hard. I think that is such a good Beatles song.
More
Obvious.
people need to be into the Beatles. Not
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
people talk about the Beatles
I think
or are into them.
George wrote like some of the best Beatles songs.
Yeah.
Like when you really break it down, like quality over quantity. Like the ones
Yeah.
that I go back to are like something and I Be Mine. I like those a lot.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
You'd think that,
Taxman.
yeah, you'd think they would be like, George is writing some of the best songs we're using as the single. Maybe we should let him write more songs, but nah, they're not.
Nope,
And
that's
then so
not.
we're stuck with songs like I've Got a Feeling, which is not, really pretty good, but where's the George song,
Yeah.
Like really, really good, maybe my favorite song ever, but why couldn't George have gotten more songs?
It is, and Get Back to also talk about Get Back instead of Dee Dee. But when they like rehearse All Things Must Pass, and you're like, wow, this could have been
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
that
That's a
album.
big moment. Yeah, we're like on the same page of all the moments. Yeah, but like
Yeah,
he performs it, and I'm like in the studio, and they're clearly, I think, into it, right? Like I think I
yeah,
see them like, him playing. I'm like, oh, this is a very special song, and they don't, but yet somehow it doesn't get on the album. It gets nixed. I don't know why. I think it's
yeah,
maybe due to the group dynamic or something. But yeah, I think it was clearly a big moment when he plays it. And you're like, okay, why isn't this making the album? Like they're desperate for songs too. How comes
yeah,
it's not on the album? Yeah.
yeah. And they threw other like filler songs in there too, what is like Maggie May on there,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like One After 909 is like from
yeah,
the
yeah,
beginning of them writing songs at all. And then Paul is just like writing songs on the fly. Like Let It Be is written so on the fly. Of
yeah,
course, obviously brilliant genius, but there's a gem right there. All Things Must Pass. But luckily, All Things Must Pass is much more fitting for the album that ended up coming out, the George album. So,
true.
at the end of the day, it worked out. Um, you know.
It worked out, George. Yeah.
Don't be mad. Don't be unhappy. You got yours. I got mine. I be mine. I be mine. I be mine. So, anyways,
Which if
Dee Dee is a
Yeah, Dee
film
Dee.
by
Yeah.
you were gonna say something else.
Nope, nope,
Uh,
nope. We're on to Dee Dee. Yeah.
kind of want to hear it though. What were you gonna say?
I
What
was
was your
just gonna
point?
say that I love when George is like, whatever it is that pleases you, I'll do it.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
when
That's
he's
also a good
getting a little
part.
sassy with Paul.
When he's
Yeah.
getting sassy with Paul.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like a sassy George.
Well,
Yeah.
what's the Beatles song where they're like, "Is it ever gonna be?" Na, 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 na?" Do you know that one?
No.
I don't know. They like it's like the first song they play in the documentary, and I don't know what song it is.
Huh.
Obviously,
Is
I'm
it
not
on
doing.
is it on Let It
No,
Be?
no, it's not. It's
Oh.
not.
Hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll have to rewatch it and let me know.
Yeah.
But it's like the warm up track to when they're in
Yeah.
the bad acoustics area, and they just start
Twickenham.
playing, and
Yeah.
uh people start filtering in, and they're like
Yeah.
introducing them all. They're like playing that song. It's when the magic begins.
Oh yeah. Got butterflies in my stomach thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really should. I think you should rewatch it because I need to cut myself off because there was a rewatch earlier in late 2024, so I feel like
Oh.
I'm off schedule a little bit. So I need to watch it again, but I think I need to change the schedule so I'm not watching it too often. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it would be like a because it came out around the holidays. I thought it would be like a sort of like a holiday watch for me, but I kind of just watch bits and pieces here and there throughout the year still.
It's
So,
like a New Year's watch for me, but then I
mm,
watched it last fall again, I think. So I think I did it twice in 2024,
wow, yeah.
which some people are probably like, what the hell?
Well, then also Dee Dee came out this
Yeah, but
year.
like
Yeah.
if I didn't watch it three times though, so I was able to watch Edie, um, which is a film by Sean Wang. Uh, I think it's his first feature, and I think he comes out of the Sundance arena. And Dee Dee is a film kind of in the vein to me of like a Ladybird, like an eighth grade by Bo Burnham, a Fablemans by Steven Spielberg. It's kind of funny to list like Greta Gerwig and Bo Burnham and then be like, oh, and then also the film by Steven Spielberg. That is also very intimate and personal. But I love these types of movies. I love the personal coming of age movies that A24 has specifically kind of, championed, it feels like. And this is also kind of like what you're saying with Rap World. Um, like an of our era of childhood. So it brought a lot back for me because of that too. Like it shows him using MySpace and Facebook and IM and how like that's where your social life happened and also takes you back to the time in your life where the social life was everything. And also, I specifically relate to this because um, there's a tremendous, the tremendous desperation to fit in that this kid has in the movie. Like the fact that he's like, oh, I'm going to now be a skateboard videographer, or like, I'm going to, first I'll obsess with this girl. Now I'll be a skateboard videographer. Then he's like, Googling all the videography things, and he's like, you know, um, he's putting on this thing. He's like trying to talk how they talk and dress how they dress, and then he goes home, and then he brings them home, and then they see his life, and it's not the active representation of who he is at all. And his mom comes in, and she's very nice, and then he's like very embarrassed of his mom
Yeah.
because like the worlds are colliding, and it's kind of going with his crisis of identity. I've had like many like kind of weird shifts like these over the not all weird, but like just shifts where I was like, okay, now like as I, was a kid in the suburbs trying to like, figure out who I am or how I'm gonna fit in or who I'm gonna hang out with, because like it's not as big of a deal now, but like when you were a kid, like these movies kind of remind me as a kid, like specifically eighth grade in this movie where oh yeah, who you were hanging out with was everything because you didn't have an identity yet and you were like that was who you were. um and so like I remember wearing American Eagle because that's what I was told I should wear in like eighth grade, like freshman year. And suddenly I was wearing American Eagle everywhere because that's what I was like told I should wear.
Mhm.
Um, and then to get a little more personal and like specifically with John here, because we became friends eventually, right? And it was kind of this time period for me. And it'd be weird, it'll be interesting to see John's perspective on this because like the outside perspective and see if you had any idea at all. But I remember becoming friends with you and Zach because I was like, oh, these are cool guys. I have classes with them, and I would watch them talk, and they just talk about sports the whole time. And I liked that. I was like, oh, they're chill and they talk about sports. And then like I hung out with you guys and you guys just would go to a park and play basketball with all your friends. And I never really had a group of friends like that where we all got together and just played basketball at a grade school parking, a grade school park for fun. Like, and that was like a new like world for me in high school. So I went pretty into like being friends with Zach and John because they were super cool kids and
Yeah.
whatnot. And how wrong was I though? But I remember specifically it was like John, because going back to the theme of clothes, right? John, you had a very cool like Oklahoma, possibly like Under Armour or Air
Yeah, I know.
Jordan
Yeah.
sweatshirt. And that's
Under
what
Armour. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what you wore every day. And it like matched with the rest of your outfit. And Zach had also like a Boise State like Under Armour or Air Jordan sweatshirt that kind of matched the rest of his outfit and like a Boise State hat and shoes. And it wasn't like ever told with to me. It wasn't like John once went up to me. He's like, "Hey, if you're gonna, like in Girls, where like you're wearing sweatpants today, so you can't sit with us or something like that." It
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
Hey, if you're gonna hang out with us, you gotta pick a school and you gotta get close
Yeah, yeah.
to that school. It was never like that. But there was like a voice in my head that told me, all like, oh yeah, I gotta do that. And so I picked a school and I started wearing clothes that went with that, like so that I was wearing that school almost every day.
North Carolina, right?
School was University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. A great school. Boy, did I. That's what I chose. I don't know what it's really funny to look back on now because I really don't, you're like, where was my head at? But that, reflecting through, say, like a film like Dee Dee, I can be like, oh, that's what with my head was at. I was just trying to fit in with new friends. And I was like, and I had a hat too, like a North Carolina hat and the sweatshirt. And I even got like North Carolina stickers all around my room. And I remember my brother Jake, he had the same, we got like the stickers from the same like brand, but we had different schools. And my brother's school was like University of Texas. And we would go and look at each other's stickers. And I'm like, oh, these are the Texas stickers. They're nothing like my North Carolina stickers in there. The same. They're just like different colors and shit.
I don't know. That's interesting that you bring it up too about like fitting in with like the group and stuff because I've thought about this podcast before too. Was like I kind of started this podcast about movies initially just because I felt like a lot of the people I was around and hanging out with was all about like sports, and that's a lot of what we would talk about. And
Sure.
especially in high school, I had like two separate friend groups, like in school, which is like my band friends, I guess, and then my
Yeah, you kind of like filtered around a good amount. You like had more of a balance of friendships.
yeah, and I would say I had really close friendships with like my youth group, people who we would go to concerts all the time. So
You're
I
like
felt like
still friends with those guys, right? Like
yeah,
were multiple people at your birthday thing from the youth group, or at least
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I live by some of them now, and we still go to concerts and stuff together. So I feel like I had like my outlets for like the more creative, artsier side of me that
Right.
and and
So like maybe like the Zach Price group did never saw it, or anything.
no, yeah. That was all sports all the time.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then my I'd say my
Hey, I think
college
that's smart. That's really smart. I wish I
yeah.
almost had that in a way.
I yeah, I really liked it. I think when I got to college, then it was more like narrow, but I feel like I for sure had like the sports stuff covered. And I had some like creative friends that I would do like a radio show with or do video stuff with. But I got to a point after college where I felt like all the people that I was hanging out with and talking to were talking about sports and all this stuff, and I was just
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
needed an outlet for this type of thing, which
right, right.
is where I think also in high school where we had started to we got drawn together a little bit more was I also think
Yeah,
like underlying was like, well, we're not just into like sports and
yeah.
college football and all
Right,
that.
right,
Like there's
right.
other
I
interests
think we
too.
both realize, hey, like we're both like, hey, John's also like really goofy and like into the office and just like making
The
these
Office, yeah, that
sketch
was yeah.
videos with me and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that was like a big like breakthrough towards the end of high school. Yeah, but like I had like other friends in high school, but the thing about it was like they were also very into sports, like
Yes, yeah.
maybe even more into sports. And I played basketball with them too, and like sports video games, and watch sports. And so I had like two groups that I'm playing basketball with, like multiple groups that I'm playing basketball with. So it was kind of like, yeah, it was sports nonstop when I really like look back on it. And there was just like one sports group that I have, that I had that was maybe like they had more like access to like girls than the other sports
Oh,
groups. So I was like, oh, I kind of like think
yeah.
this sports group's good for this time of my life or whatever. And uh,
Ours was
yeah,
the more alternative sports group.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The alt sports group. Like, and so then like, this turned into a whole thing, and we'll see how we edit it down, but if we even need to. Maybe it's good, and there's names mentioned, but we'll, we can
hmm
you can use your just best judgment. But like, so then I went to college, and I kind of got like a little depressed and had some like things come up in my life. And like then I got super into like movies and comedy and like rap music. And I became like a sort of a film guy in a way. And suddenly I'm like looking back on all the friends I had made, which is like college and high school, and who had kind of stuck around at that point. And I'm like, and I look specifically the high school friends. It was like, okay, they're all into sports still, and
Yeah.
like kind of still into like the high school sports. Like they would still like these friends would still talk about the coaches from Glenbard South,
Mm.
and I'd be like, or playing basketball at the rec league, and how they think they could somehow make uh they're like, oh, I bet I could make like I could walk onto the COD team, and then I'll make the Mizzou team. And like still super into like playing basketball, and even shaking that childhood dream of like playing sports professionally, or whatever. Just like that is who they were. And I was like, all right, I gotta like, this is not me anymore at all these guys. And like even the more like respectable ones, like they became coaches for high school sports. So I'm like, all right, I don't relate to this group anymore at all. So then I went like, full into the film thing, and I went into film school, and now I'm with all these like film artistic people. Um, and it kind of it felt right. But then there's even moments where you're in the film artistic world where you're like, oh, all these people are like just like super like film broy, and so you're
Yeah.
still not satisfied. And it just weirdly, I'll end the whole thing, the full circle thing of it there. But then like you're almost like kind of like, oh, it never ends, where you're like, I don't know, trying to find your way um in this. And but that's what kind of Dee Dee really enlightened me about, is all that
Yeah.
whole dynamic of it. And um because at the end of the day, I think we're all still like those guys who wanted to wear like the college sweatshirt or whatever to fit in and have some sense of identity.
Yeah.
um or like play basketball and like be into college football or whatever, and like that gives you some sense of identity. Like I was really into Derrick Rose and the Bulls because that gave me an identity, and I had all the shirts. And I think like our friend Zach, like he hated on Derrick Rose because that gave him some
Yeah.
sense of identity. Like for some reason that made him feel maybe it's the contrarian thing or whatever, but we're all just like weirdly and at this point, like high school and the point where Dee Dee takes place and high school specifically is where everyone is at it. They're at their most fragile for trying
Yeah.
to figure out who they are and fit in. And nobody like realizes it at the time, but when you look back and when you were and you go like, oh, this person was very, remember when they were so sensitive that time, or they were so, like you didn't understand why. It's like it's because of that. Like everyone's just so badly looking to be accepted or
Yeah.
thought of as like they have value or they're cool or they're funny or just something or just they're a part of anything.
Glad Dee Dee brought
Yeah, I don't know.
all
Is
that
there
out. Yeah.
anything else to say about Didi? I guess it's,
That's
it's all that, but it's like a West Coast version. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I felt very much the like West Coast vibes of this. And yeah, movies like these, as you can see, I think it speak everything that we just talked through speaks for itself. Movies like these are very important, to
Yes.
remember like where you came from and yeah. So I'm up for anybody who wants to make a movie like this. Yeah.
But Dee Dee is set in 2008 during the last month of summer before high school begins, and that was exactly
That aligns with us.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
like the movie so much. I was almost going to put it at like number 3 or something like that, even.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. But,
It
yeah, no,
was
'cause it brought the feels back.
yeah, no, yeah, it was Dee Dee was great. I'm glad you got so much out of it. It was my number 13, so it did just miss my top 10. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I'll definitely rewatch it and I'm just trying to think of what else to say about it. But it just really brought me back to that place, got me with the feels. I don't know if you watched Inside Out 2 either, but
Not
same
yet.
vibes of like anxiety and wanting to be accepted. And it's also about going into high school and shit. And I thought that had me feeling that sort of way as well.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I've only heard good things about it. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, that was like an hour on Dee Dee.
wow. Yeah.
After an hour on Bob Dylan and the Beatles.
Yeah. And then our like number sevens will be super long, and then we'll just like rapid fire go through the rest.
Yeah, number sevens is like a whole video clip, basically.
Yeah. Um,
All right.
so yeah, that was your number seven, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
on, I'm on six. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, my number six is a movie called Memoir of a Snail.
I
Um,
don't know. You've had like three in a row that I don't know.
I guess my kind of more less
You put the obscure ones next to each
yeah.
other.
Yeah, more obscure are like in this like second half of my list. Rap World, Hundreds of Beavers, and Memoir of a Snail, which I loved. And it would remind you of like Tim Burton, um,
Okay.
notably the stop motion. Um, but it's just a really sweet and hilarious movie about it's mostly about this little girl, but her and her twin brother were like separated, and became orphans when like their family died. And yeah, it's just about this. It's like that's such like a sad premise. Um, but it's so like really like funny and silly too. And I don't know, I'd be interested to hear if like
Okay.
parents have watched this with their kids thinking that
Right.
it's like
Expecting.
because there's some like real like raunchy for a stop motion movie.
Okay.
But yeah, so funny though. But yeah, it's this girl who she's like uh she like kind of thinks of herself as a snail and she has like these snail pets and um I mean you can relate it to what we were just talking about too. It's definitely her trying to find her place in the world and her
Oh man,
identity
here we
and
go again. I'm
yeah, and
ready.
now let's round two. But it's yeah, it's really like it's just like a really sweet movie and it gets dark too and um but I think it's really funny, and in the end, I liked how it kind of all wrapped up. But yeah, it's dark, so I wouldn't say it's like a kid's movie, but it has like the dark comedic sense of humor too, that I think is really funny. Um, and the stop motion is like amazing. I don't know
It's
how
really
people,
detailed and yeah.
yeah, there's like
Sometimes stop
with,
motion, there's really nothing like it when you're really breaking it down. If you want to escape into those worlds of like, the
yeah,
Fantastic Mr. Fox with some tea movie, you're like, all right, this is like the greatest thing. Like, why am I not watching this all the time?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, how is this not regarded as like the most amazing thing ever? Yeah, it's
Sounds
Memoir
like
of a Snail.
number six.
Number six. Yeah, we're almost to the top five.
Another 3 hours to
Yeah.
go. So I will do my number six now. My number six is The Substance. Um,
Nice.
yeah. What a name for a film to begin with. Yeah, this is a film I almost didn't see because I
Wow.
was thinking that it might not be up my alley. Like sometimes I've tried to like when you go to film school and you meet friends there, you'll meet friends who are into all sorts of things, like body horror things or
Mm,
very gross things. And I've had times where I've seen gross things, and it wasn't even like, oh, I was like, "Ugh, I'm so grossed out by it." Like it wasn't even that. It was like I saw the film and I was like, I did not find this enjoyable or funny. I did not get anything out of it. I don't know if you've ever found that with those kinds. But like there's this one movie, Ichi the Killer, I saw where
mm.
I got nothing out of it. It was just very violent, just like to an absurd degree, and kind of funny. I will, it was kind of funny, but the way some of these, like I saw at the music box one time, and I remember people were nerding out about it so hard, and
Uh-huh.
I was not on their level. Um, it was like a thing that Quentin Tarantino would recommend,
Yeah.
um, something like that. But so, anyways, due to my relationship with some body horror things and violence things, I was thinking, I don't know. And it's long. It was long too. Other than that, I knew nothing about the substance, which was perfect for when I
Yeah.
substance. It was
Yeah.
perfect. I knew nothing, and I went for the ride of my life, and um, and it was probably it's hard to say what my favorite theater experience was of the year, but it probably was this. Up
Same.
there with another movie on my list that's coming up, but like yeah, it was insane. It was such a good time, and I honestly like. I know it's higher on your list. I'm one of the reasons why it's probably not higher on my list is like outside of say if I met someone who has never seen The Substance, like say if I meet a girl, John, which it may never happen again, but like say if I meet a girl who's
When
never
you meet a girl.
when
Yeah.
I meet a girl, yeah, when I meet a girl who's never seen The Substance, I will have to say that you have to see the subs. That's one of those times where I will like be like, you must. And then like the fun of like sitting it through and watching them react when you kind of know what's going on. Like that's
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll sit down and watch the substance just by myself, probably ever, in my place. I don't think so. But yeah, it's a ride unlike anything, and it's so. As it goes and gets crazier, it's like it kind of gets funnier and
Yeah.
more enjoyable as it goes. And it was impossible to predict anything. It was one of those where like I was never even in my head trying to predict what would happen because it was like impossible. It was like I was so present and zoned in and like just going with what was going on screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the Golden Globes, like the skit that Margaret Qualley and
Yeah.
Moore did. That was really good. Um,
Yeah. It's been kind of heartwarming to see like those two together, like
yeah,
supporting each other.
share such a special bond with that movie. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I also like you, I'm not I guess I'm not like a big body horror person, but I do like it if it's like if it goes really on like the silly side of things. And
Right.
yeah, that's why I felt like the Substance it was not to be taken super seriously and way
Yeah.
over the top.
Yeah.
Even the, like Dennis Quaid's character is so
Oh,
ridiculously
so
over the
good. Yeah.
top
Yeah.
that he's
He's
so
kind of like
funny.
that dude in the Brutalist, the capitalist and the Brutalist a little bit. I felt like those two are
Uh,
similar characters.
the Guy
Um,
Pearce, like
yeah,
his
yeah,
character.
Guy
Yeah,
Pearce and the Bruce. I think Guy Pearce and the Brutalist is actually like pretty good. I thought
he
I like
was
it.
good. Yeah.
I enjoyed his character. He's like, I found
Um,
this conversation intellectually stimulating. Like when he
yeah,
said,
I do like that part. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, yeah. I guess I think it's yeah, when it goes like way over the top silly,
"Yeah,
then I like it because there's a just in recent years in trying to like get into more of like more obscure like horror movies. There's a movie called Society that has very strange body horror like kind of reveal
mm,
towards the end, and it's so ridiculous and funny that it reminds me a lot of Substance. But
mm,
yeah, this as soon as you thought like there's no way they can make this like any weirder with the Substance, it just keeps
yeah,
going. You kind of think it's gonna. At least when I was watching, I thought like when Demi Moore is like that old wrinkled woman who's really disheveled. I thought that was kind of like the extent of
right."
where she was gonna go, and then
It's
once
kind
it
of the part
gets
in the third act, the climax scene when that happens. That is like no one expects that. Yeah,
yeah, and actually, I think
and
one of my
it becomes the Carrie scene too. That was also like
yes, yeah.
what
Well, that I think was my favorite moment in the theater.
I know we'll bring it up again, but yeah, the
We
substance.
will.
I never
Yeah.
see.
Nice.